Some of the crystals have got the apexes on the door, there's many Lemurian crystals in South Australia. I went over there and did a market and met a guy who would have been about 80, who was a fossiler from Adelaide. And he had his stall at the market with all the Lemurian quartz pink crystals on the table. And he said he found them here in the hills. And Adelaide Hills is full of Lemurian quartz. And it's full of angels also, Adelaide. They say it's the city of angels. But anyway, getting back to the yellow chakra of Australia becoming the green, you can see why a lot of people are coming to Australia. They're going to be working on the land and getting the inside of the continent up again and farmed and agriculture, hopefully, if everything goes right. And there's lots of water underneath the centre of Australia. And then England, which was the heart, is moving on to the throat, place of speak. And you can see the ley line there running through Australia at the bottom. It goes up through Wilson's Prom, just cuts off the top of Flinders Island, through Wilson's Prom, up through Broken Hill to Uluru and out through Broome, which is where all the crystals grow. Because ley lines, the English or Celts called the dragon lines, which are the same thing. They were here in the time of the early dragons, and they could do all four elements. The dragons were put here to test the terrain. They were massive in size. They could swim, fly, walk on land, and breathe fire. So they were the ones to be tested here first in the olden days, thousands of years ago, billions of years ago. So the dragon lines and the rainbow snake are the crystal lines, and you can see where they run through Australia, and we grow sapphires under there. We've got gold underneath there. Uluru's full of rose quartz. There's a big Pleiadian star base underneath there made of rose quartz. We've got all the sapphires around the peninsula to Phillip Island. We've got all sorts of beautiful things in our country, and in fact underneath Victoria has got the most gold in the world. And they've found this through satellite. They can't dig it because it's so deep, fortunately. But they've found that, and they've also found the most oil out at near the Bight there in the world. So we've got to really look after this place too. A lot's happening. And then the ley line goes out through Broome, where we have the pearls and shells and lovely sea life. They go under the water too, of course, out to Bali. Bali's the purification centre of the world, where the ley lines cross, and there's a lot going on in Bali. It used to contain, and still does, many sacred temples where people could go, and there's a temple for each chakra. I think there's 15 of them, and they would go and do special ceremonies and clear their chakras. Was the original purpose of the energies in Bali. But that's got a little bit contaminated at the moment as well. So that's a bit on the rainbow snake and the earth chakras. So as the chakras move in the planet, so do ours, because we are also earth. This is now our solar system. Can you read that? Oh gosh, binoculars. All right, so Mercury. So I started to visit a lot of these places and do remote viewing because I was on the search for my father's soul, in a sense. And I went all over the galaxy, and I started off with our solar system. And I first went to Mercury, which when I landed in Mercury, it was a beautiful silver planet, just like quicksilver or liquid mercury. And as I came into the atmosphere of Mercury, it got thicker and hotter. Two beings approached me in a silver body. And I said, the bodies of the planet are made of the same substance of every planet. So if you're from a planet of Mercury, so is the being. It's the same. And they walked up to me and they told me that they are telepathic. They were like twins, which is why they work with Gemini. And they started reading my mind and telling me things that are coming to the earth with the communications, and about how to protect the communication devices with the Wi-Fi and all the different static, which is everybody's aware of now. So the Mercurians are ones that work with our communications. And then I went to Venus, and that was a beautiful planet, quite big, not as big as Earth, but it was covered in a lovely mist. It was a beautiful, dream-like planet, and as I approached there, I went there on my unicorn, which sounds a bit silly, but I've got a unicorn that takes me around called Astaria. and she takes me to places that I need to go for certain things. And we went into Venus and landed on the grass. It's full of grass there, but the grass blades look like they're sugar-coated, and so do the flowers. They're the most beautiful flowers, and they're larger, and they are covered in like a sugar, but it's a crystal, and they heal you, and everyone's just lying around on the grass. It was mainly women there, and it's a beautiful continent or planet for peace, if you want to go for healing, and places like that. But the Venus beings look exactly like us, and they told me that Venus is going to be the next Earth, if anyone wishes to choose to go there, because it's in the stage where Lemuria was. When we had Lemuria, Venus is in that stage now, as it's moving out in the orbits, and we're heading towards the Mars orbit. The pyramids in Mars were that was actually where Earth is in the orbit, and it's just moved out further. In fact, there's pyramids, the same pyramids are on each planet in our solar system, and they line up with true north. And I see that we're a little bit off our axes. True north is the Pleiades to us, and we're all going to line up with the Pleiades star system very soon. And then Earth, well, you all know about Earth. Now that you could spend lifetimes here because it's full inside. In fact, every planet is full inside of beings, and we're probably the only dummies that live on the crust. But soon we might all go in because of the harsh elements that will be approaching as we move further. But inside Earth, I went inside through the Crystal Guardians, took me through the portals. There's 33 portals which have the light cities on the top, but they also have them underneath. And we went through tunnels which lit up as I went inside, because the crystals are somehow in the tunnel walls, and they lit up, and I was taken inside to these beautiful cities, and it's almost like a wheel inside a wheel in a wheel inside the planet. It's not like the hollow Earth. It is the hollow Earth picture that you saw before, but there's another one, and then there's another one, which is what I see, and I'm not saying I'm right, but this is just from my own experience, and if it resonates with anyone else, then maybe it's true. We need 100 of us to prove anything scientifically verifiable, but it was a wheel cog which turned inside another wheel in another wheel of Middle Earth, Inner Earth, Central Earth, which had a beautiful crystal sun, I guess you could call it, but it was more like a generator inside the Earth, and it was surrounded by iron. I saw a lot of iron. There's all sorts of minerals in there, but the iron is just for this period of 5,000 years, because we all have the iron in our blood. That in the DNA at the moment we've been full of iron so as we can be hardwired to this planet. But soon it's changing. We're going through a phase of copper, like the Andromedans have the copper in their blood, and then I believe we're going into gold. Back to the 12th dimensional DNA strand of the gold in the blood, but it's going to take a bit of time. And that's the ascension. And we all had that when we lived in golden Atlantis, I believe, which is where we're heading again into another golden age. So inside all the beautiful Earth, it's full of lovely beings, and some are not so lovely, but I don't go there. But they just seem to protect me, or they shut the tunnel with a door, or could be a silver one, which I'm not to go in. The tunnels light up. I go through with my guides, and we go to a city in there, which I'll explain a bit more of those later. So Earth is just beautiful. And when they do line up, they open up stargates inside the Earth. So the portals on the surface line up with those in the second layer, then those in the third layer, and then those in the central core, which is happening now through the halls of Aventi. It's like a time lock, and I believe we've all been on this, not closed down period, but we've had to shut down for a certain reason for the last 10,000 years, which I'll tell you that later. Mars. Okay, so I went to Mars, and that was interesting. It was a very red, barren soil, and there was a lot of people on the top probing. I saw instruments on the surface of Mars, like they were scientists from another galaxy. They were silver people, just looking at Earth, observing us with these telescopes and tools that they had on Mars. And I thought, right, I won't go to that side again. Next time I'll go around the back. And I went through another doorway, as I was met with the being from Mars. If you're not met, I believe, with a being from that planet, you'll end up maybe in the astral or in trouble, perhaps. But so the beings came to me from Mars and took me inside, where I met a king in there who was a diva, who told me he's ancient, and he said that this is where Mars is still full of civilizations inside, and they're all beautiful beings, and they are our ancestors also inside there. Moldek, which was the central moon, which I explained about, that was a beautiful moon. I had a look at that because I went back in time, and it was an illuminating green colour with an aura that expanded right through the solar system also. It had an amazing substance. I think it was like a uranium type of mineral on it that healed people. I'm not saying uranium heals you, but it could in the future. Jupiter. I travelled out to Jupiter with my guides. I went with Lamont this time on a carpet. I believe I've travelled on my flying carpet a few times with Lamont. He's a sun being. And we went into Jupiter through the eye, which seems to have closed off at the moment, but we went through the eye through 9 layers of clouds. It had 9 worlds we had to go through. Maybe they were dimensions, but we went in through the eye, and the Jupiterians, I guess you call them, came forward. There was 3 of them in white with a triangle on the front of their frock with a red cross. Something like the Knights of Templar. 1 was a Negro and 2 were white people, and they were very tall, and they took me into a temple or a council type of temple where we all sat and discussed things of the Earth. And that's where I found out that the other side of Jupiter are still all quite highly vibrational and interacting with each other with UFOs, I guess. Whereas on this side of the asteroid belt we're in some sort of lock, but that's going to change soon. So the Jupiterians are amazing. Saturn. That's an interesting planet. I went in through Saturn, through the ice rings there, which you can slip anywhere across those. They tilt, and I ended up going through, sliding down into one until a being there caught me and took me into the Lord of Karma. I went into the Lords of Karma Council, which resides on Saturn. And I met Kuan Yin, and all the beings were there from our solar system. And I've drawn a picture of that, and I didn't bring any of my paintings along. I've got heaps of paintings, but I brought enough material, and I don't know how to use these yet. The guys helped me a little bit with this, but another time I can show you the paintings of the inside the planets. Tomorrow. I can bring them Sunday or tomorrow. Yeah, good idea. Yes, so Saturn was very interesting, and there was all the beings around this table, which as you put your hands on the table, holograms came out of it. It's a bit like a Star Wars or a Star Trek movie, which I've never seen Star Trek, but I have seen Star Wars, and that was very similar there. So they're talking about the karma of the Earth and Earth karma, and that's where they told me that Mother Earth, it was most beautiful planet who put her hand up for an assignment to fall, actually. So it's part of a divine plan, which is what they told me in Saturn, so it may not be true. She she shut down her stargates for a reason, because the galaxy was full of lost souls that were going to become detriment or dissipate or lost and had nowhere to go. So Mother Earth sacrificed her only son, which was Sirius, and moved right away out of its orbit for a period of time so lost souls could come here, giving them a chance to ascend and evolve again, because your soul is an energy and light. It either expands or dissipates into, I don't know if it dissipates into nothing, but it can become very small. So Mother Earth offered her body as a sacrifice in unconditional love for all her children to come here and evolve. And that's what's happening. And that's why the planet's so full of people right now. 7 billion of us are here from... 7 billion, pardon me. Thank you. From all over the galaxy, and here to ascend and for this grand shift. And a girlfriend of mine, Elistra, told me that this year in 2018 in March on the 27th, is a special date to all meditate on this date. It's called harmonic concordance. I've got a bit of paper here if you want to read it later. There's going to be a mass awakening on this day. I don't know whether it's through light or ships or how, or whether it's just the consciousness. Uranus, okay, so I went out to Uranus, and that was an interesting planet as well. I think I went there on Astaria again and landed there, which was purple. Most beautiful purple, hazy planet. And I met the beings there that took me in a craft which was like a little rubber, maybe 5-foot type of disc with a side wall that had a computer on the front, and they steered this hovercraft construction with their mind, and we went all around Uranus. They were interesting beings, full of light again, and said that their planet is very advanced. It's not one of the ascending planets in our solar system at the moment. We've got Venus, Neptune and Earth are the ascending planets at the moment. Uranus has already done a lot of that work there already. And Pluto is similar to Uranus. It's also purple-blue, like an indigo. It's a beautiful planet. And the beings there approached me as I landed there with funny ears, large ears like fins off a fish, really. Has anyone heard of the Hathors in Egypt? The same type of ears, but they were purple, and these beings were really tall, whereas the Hathors are shorter and live inside Venus and are orange, and they're inside Venus. But the Plutonians are tall beings, and they work with sound and light. And they took me into a room where I saw an enormous shell. It would have been as big as maybe a kilometre, and it was a sound device for the solar system. They could pick up every sound, every voice, every every musical instrument or every word through this device that they were recording for our solar system. And they taught me that sound is one of the most valuable things in your body is actually an ear, or it hears music, not just through the ears, but through your whole being is a musical instrument. And your chakras, as you know, are do, re, mi, so, la, fa, ti, are the chords of the piano, the chords of the universe. And when you're out of tune, your chakras are out, and your legs are like a tuning fork. You look like a tuning fork. You've all got your own frequency, and you're plugged into the earth through the positive and negative charges under each leg. So I've skipped Neptune, sorry. Neptune was amazing. It was humongous, and it was blue, and it was aqua, and it was extraordinary. The whales and the fish inside Neptune are so big, they're like it makes our whale look like a goldfish. They're massive, and I went under the sea, and people were living in domes on Neptune. The beings were blue, and they looked like fish, or most of them came in from Sirius, I believe, and they look scaly, but they've got the scales on the top of the head. I saw a picture of one earlier. Someone showed a picture, and I thought, oh, he's from Neptune. And so that's an amazing ascending planet. You can go there to ascend there. And Neptune's blue aqua. Okay, now let's see if that's our solar system. Oh, I can't read that either. So this is the outer solar system. So I travelled further out then. I was getting a bit gutsy. And I went to the Pleiades at this stage, which was amazing. I took not just Astaria, I went in my Merkaba at this stage. I thought I'd better get something decent if I'm going further. So which is the chariot in the Bible, they call that, the Merkaba, which is a beautiful star that is around you, and it comes from the heart, and you can expand it at your will and contract it with your guides, and it surrounds your soul. Well, you have two souls. You have the oversoul and the soul. In fact, you've got three souls, maybe more. But in the higher soul, or the oversoul, this orb is filled with your guides, angels, masters, interplanetary beings, and your other soulmates. And then we have another soul above that that is your 144,000 count monads, and so it goes on. I've got a diagram, actually I'll show you now quickly. So I didn't take a picture of this. Can you see that?
Yeah.
You probably need binoculars, but that's a picture. There's you down here, and there's you're surrounded by your aura, which is an extension of your soul, and then you've got the higher soul. You can have a look at this later anyway. The oversoul, and then we've got all the levels of the soul councils right up through to the fathership councils. So that was channeled through. I can't make sense of it yet. I just get told what to do. Just get diagrams. I've got a whole lot of books here of different maps and diagrams. Oh, really? Better move. Sorry. 15 minutes to go. So the Pleiades was a beautiful planet filled with every single race in the galaxy. It's the home planet. You can go there and you're welcome. They look after you. There's all different races there around Alcyone and the other planets. And it's just a beautiful place, the place of the higher heart. You have your own Pleiadian stargate in your fifth chakra, or your thymus chakra, the pink chakra. Arcturus, we've got, was an amazing planet. That's the furthest sun, great central sun. Pleiades is the central sun. Arcturus is Sirius is the great central sun. Orion, great central sun. Arcturus, great central sun. So Arcturians, I went there and there were 3 beings there, and that I saw, a blue, a white and a green. The green one looked like Yoda. They work with the crop circles, and the white ones are working with technology. They have the state-of-the-art ships, amazing spaceships with antennas and every little whiz thing on it, and they're enormous, and the blue ones are working with healing. Sirius A and B are water planets mainly. Beautiful dolphins. There are white temples on the land though that is out of the sea. Sirius C, doesn't exist anymore. That was removed in an Orion galactic war. Lyra, the Prism of Lyra, we came through, are the lion people. I'll show you some photographs actually. Oh, that's the galactic cycle, which I put this map down. Now this is the 26,000 years that the Mayan calendar talks about, and it's also the Buddhist and the Hindu 5,500 year quarters, making it Golden Age, Bronze Age, Silver and Dark. It's also the Celtic cycle of the 2,164 ages, times 12 around the outside. So I put them all together. It's not mathematically correct, but that's just a map of the galactic cycle of us going around the Pleiades, which is our central sun, and we now are in the photon band where all the suns are lining up. The suns are lining up and giving us this period of enlightenment. Oh, that's the cover of it, the Prism of Lyra. So here's some Lyran beings. Now they are the lion people. They're the founders of this galaxy. They were here through the prism first. And you can see, oh, this has got a little thing on it. Hang on. Oh, there. Wait a minute. See this here, the Prism of Lyra? This is where we broke away, you could say, from the Godhead. We've got Mother and Father, the silver and the golden rays. And then all the children were born from the Prism of Lyra, from the divine parents, with the splitting of the rays, which is all of the star races that head out over the whole galaxy through Lyra. And I've got a little map over here showing the Prism of Lyra. We went out to Vega Lyra and then out to Antares. Over here, Zeta Reticuli. Some of our brothers and sisters went out to the Zeta Reticuli and ended up in Draco and in the reptilian thing here. I might have a bigger picture of that, but I think I've got to go through them all. I'll just get to the big one. I'm not going to do this in 15 minutes, am I? Hang on, here we go. So we broke through the Andromedan galaxy, Milky Way, through the prism into here. We had the Vega Lyrans, which were a stem from Lyra, and some went off to the avians, the bird tribe, that went through to Procyon, Phoenix, and Orion is where all the wars started to happen, because they tried to bring back duality here. We went from here to Arcturus, then down to Sirius, through B and C to Betelgeuse, coming into Orion, and then on the other side, the Zeta Reticuli, who ended up cloning themselves out. They tried to make us have a soul without any emotion, and they didn't want any pain, so they cloned out a lot of emotion from their soul matrix, which is why they're coming back now into the picture to try and restruct their soul. And we ended up in Hydra, Pollux, Rigel, Nummos. The Nibiru is the Anunnaki. I don't know a lot about them, and then it ended up in some soulless planet, which doesn't sound too good, unless you can escape and come here through into our galaxy, and then we go on from Sol through to Pluto, Chiron the Healer, through Kansas Major, Scooty, and then back to Andromeda. So I'm still figuring all this out. This is only half done, and it is covered in pencil underneath here, which you can't see here. That map I showed you earlier of the galactic cycle is our planet in the middle there, and the stargates go out through your star signs, which are fixed. And then they line up with these outer star beings, and I'm seeing now that when the outer star beings started to starseed our planet through time, because down here we were in Atlantis, and that's when we fell from grace, or the Adam and Eve time when, 10 minutes, hurry up. We fell from grace down here, and we've been going around the galactic cycle trying to find our way back up until now. They sent Jesus in here at AD BC, who came in from the White Brotherhood of Sirius B, sent him in through to try and raise the vibration while we end the Kali Yuga cycle of the Dark Age, and before the photon band. So you can see when the beings star-seeded here through Genesis. I've just got a map down here of Genesis, which you won't be able to read, but I'll need it to make sure I say it properly. So on the first day of Genesis, there was light. All was dark. The light separated into day. Day 2, the earth was covered with a dome. Okay, my brother's telling me that the earth is flat. And I said, his theories sound very interesting, actually. I almost believed him. And I asked the guides, and I said, is the earth flat? They said, yes, it's flat, it's round, and it's a hologram. I thought, great. Now what do I do with that? It's everything. It's up to your perception, I guess. And then on day 3, the sea moved, creating the land, Gondwana land. We had the one land mass back in the time of Lemuria, and it was in the day 3 when the star seeding came in from Sirius with the dolphins, the cetaceans. Crystals started to grow in that day. Day 4, we had the oceans filled with life force, dolphins, whales were all star-seeded with more Assyrians. The Pleiades came in day 4 of Genesis. We had the Andromedans, all the other beings merged. Day 5, we had more infiltration from our star beings that came through the time of the Aztecs. In through there we had the Hindu race, Egyptians, all a part of different star beings. Oh, and this little bit here, when we fell from Atlantis, everyone before Atlantis was an O blood type on the planet. I just have to put this bit in because it's about your DNA, and I think it's important. So we were all an O blood type back then, and then the A blood type is only 10,000 years old. And then when the dynasty of Egypt was around, the blood type was a B. And then after Jesus came in around here, 2,000 years ago, 100 years before that, we had the AB blood type. So my question is, will the Christ consciousness return? Will we go back to an O blood type, or is there a new blood type coming? And does the DNA all hold our star heritage? It does, it's all in the stars. I'll go right back to where we left off. I've got 5 minutes. Yeah, what's that one? Now we were up to Lyra. I'll just do this quickly. So the Lyran beings came in, they were the founders, they brought the Sphinx here. Oops. Now the Sphinx is an interesting thing because that was made later than millions of years ago, but it was earlier than Atlantis. And that is a make-up of a beautiful lion. It has the head of a human, it has the tail of a snake, it used to have wings, and it represented every star tribe. And underneath the Sphinx, I've been underneath it a few times every day out of time. I do a meditation, and the beautiful wand you saw in your movie, Rob, of the sphere, That is what it looks like inside the Sphinx, down underneath the multi-dimensional colours and the Christ light that is inside the Sphinx. Underneath is incredible, and you can go in there and have a really strong activation. The Andromedans are the blue ones. They've got the copper in the blood. They are the Krishna beings. They came here to help us. They are 7th to 12th dimensional. When I went to Andromeda, I went through this tunnel of luminous green arches. I got to the end and it was an abyss, and they said you can't go any further. So I had to come back because it would have altered something in my being somehow. The Vega Lyrans, yes, we've seen them. Many beings also went to Vega from Lyra. They started to starseed across there. There's some Arcturians, Antarians, the Lyrans, the Founders, the Hyades, Pleiadians are usually the blue-eyed blondes, but they're full of mixed races there, and the Orions. The Zeta Reticuli that went the other way from the beginning, our brothers and sisters that got lost, they are returning, and some of them are not good actually, some of them are still naughty, but most of them have turned to the light. They are the typical ETUC, the greys and the other Zetas, but there's other ones that are silver, that look like them, but they're the silvery ones that are more positive and won't harm you. They're 3 to 4 foot tall. Here's the US, oops, it's daisy. The avians are the birds tribe, which came in from the beginning with the wings, and here's Thoth here wanting to seed Mother Mary, or Mother Earth is Mother Mary, which takes me back to that nice story of how star-seeding this virginal planet, because it had everything on it, and many star beings wanted to come here while she had all these seeds and everything. So they're the winged ones. The native Indians recognise the avian bird tribes. They visit Quetzalcoatl in the Mayan calendar, the Incas, and the angels of the Pleiades. Some went over to Draco and blended over there with the Nagas and worked underneath the planet, and underneath many planets actually, causing trouble. Arcturians, I think I did this one, they were the creators of the crop circles in an alignment with our divas of the Earth that are from the inner Earth. They can't do anything to this planet without some sort of contract. And when I went over there, I visited England in my remote viewing body and put my hand on a wall of a hill. I went down what's called Dead End Valley. I don't know if it exists. It was a beautiful big valley of green grass that led to nothing but a wall. I put my hand on the wall and I had to step on a rock that was a plate or a step there, and it opened up. And I went inside there and I met a king and queen inside there of a beautiful kingdom that live in a dome. It was almost like a fairy kingdom. They belong to Avalon and they hold a lot of the mystics and the magic in there. So inside the earth is, sorry about this everybody, is this lovely star. This is an Arcturian symbol of what it's like inside the earth when the three inner earth, middle earth, central earth line up. Opens up the stargates, and I've done all the maps which are on the floor there that the crystal guardians showed me that are underneath every country. Well, there's 33 portals, and above it is a crystal light of Shambhala as they move them around the planet, ready for the big change. This is some more of Arcturus here, which was a gorgeous sapphire-looking planet, a sapphire-coloured rock of crystal. I went down inside an elevator to a realm or an area that was full of angels, and there was a pedestal in there with things that you could choose. Okay, just about ready. Assyrians are the cat people, as they came from Lyra to Sirius to here, and they have amazing technology but healing abilities, and they have the elongated skull here of the Syrians, which you all know this anyway. We've been saying this all day. I've had some great speakers before me. They're a very hard act to follow, but this is a primitive, old school way, but hopefully you get it. Then the Syrians blended with the Pleiadians and overlighted a mission on the and started appearing in caves and crossbred, hybrid with some of the humans. A lot of the Pleiadians come in through the stargate of Venus before they come to Earth. That's one of the main stargates. You can have a look at the map. The Orions, or Orion, some people call them. We three kings from Orion star. Now the 1111 you can't see here, but the 1111 gates are a gate to the Orion star system through the dimensions. Every time you see that, know that you've activated another level. And they have the light and dark polarities, or they have had for a long time, and the dark ones sort of set up a lot of the galactic wars, and the light ones are now in the dominant. They are sort of taking over there with their light. So it's most people across the galaxy want peace now. It's almost like the flags are up and nobody wants any more war or anything across the galaxy. But us here on the Earth are the ground crew. We're playing out the roles of the whole galaxy here. We all have a different star makeup, and we're down on the ground and doing it through the third dimension, because this planet is sacred. Oh, that you can't really see. That's one of my guides there. The Pleiades, I think I've spoken of them. Now, the star system in the Pleiades, we can see 6 or 7 stars with our naked eye or a telescope, but when I went there, there was hundreds of them. They brought the pink dolphins to us in the time of Lemuria, and many other beautiful things. The children of the Pleiades, they also overlighted the Native American Indians, white buffalo calf woman, and the Tibetans. Phoenix, okay, now this is another one that went into duality. The phoenix bird was underneath here, half of them went to the light and half did not. And so the phoenix is about transcending all negative dross and evolving, spreading your wings. The Chinese people worship the phoenix, the dragon, and the Garuda bird. The positive side of Phoenix is very powerful, and the negative side went over to Draco, which is here, the dragons, and they are positive and negative as well. The positive ones went over to Avalon, protecting the crystals, looking after the guardianship of the planet, as they see themselves here as their property here. And the negative ones have been causing a lot of wars still. And there we are, back to the map of the thing. Sorry. So hopefully there was something there that you got out of that, the information. And remember though that you're all divine beings here and you're doing a great job, because it's not easy here on the ground. There's so much going on in your DNA as it's opening. To me, a DNA cell looks like a Star of David. It's a beautiful star, and every time it enlightens, it gets another petal on it. So thank you for having me. To show you quickly the discs I've been making. You can come up and have a look. So I've been told to make 12 sacred seals of each of the planets, and we'll use them tomorrow in the meditation. They're crystal, and I've drawn in the codes of light and the symbols of each planet, and they activate crystals, but you can have a look at them tomorrow. Sorry, guys. Thank you.
Lovely. Not at all, not at all. I mean, we should all, I think. So, yes. Yes, we have. We've got Louise. Yes.
Seals, painted the codes of light and the language from each star system.